This is my third year tracking my task, but this year I am doing something a little bit different. In previous years, I have tracked my task biannually. However, this year I am tracking my task quarterly. So let's see what I have been able to accomplish in Q1 of 2026. So between January 1st and March 31st, I spent 234 hours and 45 minutes going after my 2026 goals, which are reading, writing, content creation, and Korean language learning. When I break down my 4 goals into my 8 daily tasks, I spent 34 hours revising my novel, 75 hours writing and revising my research papers, 23 hours and 45 minutes reading novels, 9 hours and 45 minutes reading academic text, 15 hours and 15 minutes scripting content for social media, 50 hours and 30 minutes editing content for social media, 26 hours and 30 minutes studying Korean, 22 posts on Instagram, and 3 YouTube videos. And then when I collapse these hours back into my 4 goals, I spent 124 hours and 15 minutes writing, 50 hours and 30 minutes editing content for social media, 26 hours and 30 minutes learning Korean, and 33 hours and 30 minutes reading. My most productive week of the year was March 23rd through 29th, and I spent 24 and a half hours going after my goals. My least productive week was January 1st through the 24th with 8 hours, but that's more of a technicality because the week actually started on December 28th. And since the new year had started on that Thursday, I wasn't able to account for the full week of hours. So if I consider a full week in the first quarter of 2026, then my least productive week was February 23rd to March 1st, and that's because I had a lot of meetings. And I also went to 2 book readings. I went to see an author friend of mine, Natalie Bazille. And then I also had the amazing opportunity of seeing Jamaica Kincaid. And then I also had a friend come to town. So even though it was a really busy week, I'm actually glad that I had the time to spend with friends, as well as stepping just a little bit away from my goals so that I can enjoy other parts of my life. So during my least productive week, I spent 10 hours going after my goals. But of course, like I just said, I definitely think it was worth it. Now let's talk about the specific outcomes for each of these tasks. So when I look at the 34 hours of revising my novel, which actually started February 2nd to March 31st, and that's because I finished my 5th draft on December 20th, and I wanted to give myself about a 6-week break before moving into draft 6. So because I took that break, I didn't start revising until early February, which was February 2nd. Since starting that 6th draft, I have deleted 8,294 words, and my hope is to get this draft under 100,000 words. So I need to delete about 13,000 more words, and I have about 10 more chapters to edit. So it is possible that that could happen, but I'm also going to just go ahead and focus on getting it down to 100,000. And then from there, reread it and see if there's a possibility to delete another 10,000. If not, I'm just going to have to accept that my querying version of the draft is going to be about 100,000. So we'll see. I'm not making any promises to myself just yet, but my goal is within the next 10 chapters to cut at least 10,000 words. My hope also is to start querying this draft in late summer, so possibly late July, early August. I have spent the past year working on my querying letter as well as my synopsis, so I am feeling confident about my querying materials. And I've also spent the past 6 months compiling a list of agents, so everything is essentially ready to go except for the manuscript, which I'm giving myself another 3 to 4 months to complete. So stay tuned for some querying updates. In the 75 hours that I completed towards my academic work, I did finish the revision for the American Journal of Play, and I also submitted that in last week. Of course, I'm waiting to hear back from the editors to see if there will be another round of revisions, but I imagine that the next step of revisions will come from the copy editor. And that publication is set to come out this fall. The second thing that I was working on this quarter was finalizing my anthology proposal that I am the editor for. I did submit that to my acquiring editor in February, and now that proposal is out with peer reviewers. So I am hoping that by the end of Q2, or at least sometime this month or next month, I should hear whether my book proposal was accepted or rejected, perhaps rejected with revisions. Otherwise, I may have a book proposal by the end of Q2. I also submitted another article to the Children's Literature Journal, and I submitted that article in January. And I am waiting to hear back from editors whether that was accepted or rejected or accepted with revisions. So I'm hoping to know more about that submission at least within the next few weeks. If it is accepted and accepted with revisions, that publication will be out this fall. And then the last thing that I've been working on in Q1 was revisions for my article with the Girlhood Studies Journal. And my next round of revisions are due in May, and that publication is also set to come out this fall. So if everything pans out this year, then I will have 3 publications coming out this fall and a book deal. Now, regarding my 23 hours and 45 minutes of novel reading, I have only been able to read 3 novels this first quarter. I read Tokyo Ever After and its sequel, Tokyo Dreaming by Emiko Jean. And I also read One True Loves by Elise Bryant. And then I also started the 3rd book in the series, but I started that right at the end of the quarter. So I know that that book I will be counting for Q2. In my 2025 wrap-up, I did acknowledge how I wanted to at least try to read 2 books a month this year, but I think because I have so many writing deadlines, I have not been able to keep that pace. So I'm going to go ahead and revise this year that I am going to only read a novel a month, because that is just a good pacing that I can keep up with. For my academic reading, I finished reading Playing with America's Dolls by Emily Zaslow. I also read a few article journals that I may link below. I also read 3 to 4 chapters in an anthology called Song of the Land, which is about the work of Mildred D. Taylor. I'm currently writing an article on Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry by Mildred D. Taylor, and so this anthology has given me a lot to think about, which has been really lovely. And I have also been reading selected chapters from Black Girlhood in the 19th Century by Nazira Sadiq Wright, which is a book that I first read over a decade ago, but is definitely one of those books that I always come back to. Now for content creation, in Q1 I spent 65 hours and 45 minutes scripting and editing content for social media. I posted 22 times to Instagram and released 3 YouTube videos, which averages a YouTube video a month and about 7 Instagram posts a month. And in January, I hit 500 subscribers on YouTube. I also gained 13 subscribers in Q1. I also received 1.5 views and 68 watch hours. And then for Instagram, I gained 11 followers, and so now I am at 370 followers on Instagram. It's like the little engine that could. Now, as for my Korean language hours, the 26.5 hours, those have only been from self-study. At the end of last year, I was contemplating whether I would sign up for another synchronous course or an asynchronous course. I have done neither. I have stuck with self-studying for now. And then my hope is to be able to come back to that question in the fall to see whether I want to go ahead and sign up for another synchronous course, or if the fall will allow me to have more time to also sign up for an asynchronous course. Either way, again, because of my many writing deadlines, I have not been able to have the time to sign up for anything additionally. So at least until the fall, I'm going to continue with my self-studying. It's actually really great to see that since I started tracking my hours in 2024, I have logged 304 hours and 15 minutes of active learning, which means I am about 1,800 hours away from a working proficiency in the Korean language. And so at this rate, I have another 6 years of active learning in order to hit that 2,200 mark. But I am honestly okay with taking something slow, and I am okay with my language learning journey being a slow journey, especially since so many other parts of my life feel like they're moving by so fast. So those are my stats for Q1. I have gotten a lot accomplished this year so far, and I am looking forward to what I will be able to accomplish in Q2. So stay tuned for my Q2 update in early July. And as always, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.